Welcome back to News Talk. The top 11 Republican presidential candidates take the stage in California tonight for the second debate of the primary. It will likely be a raucous event as the candidates in pursuit of frontrunner Donald Trump jostle for the chance to take him on. Ratings will likely be in the stratosphere. Expert analysis ahead, but first a preview from correspondent Kenneth Moten.
Ready for battle, hours before the second GOP debate, and Donald Trump was on a battleship in Los Angeles, the USS Iowa, delivering a speech about protecting the homeland.
We're going to make our military so big and so strong and so great, and it will be so powerful that I don't think we're ever going to have to use it.
Meanwhile, new attacks against the Republican frontrunner. Conservative Super PAC Club for Growth Action is behind this new anti-Trump ad.
He's really just playing us for chumps.
Trump and Ben Carson are on top of the GOP field, a 13-point difference in this week's ABC News Washington Post poll. But a new CBS New York Times poll has them at a virtual tie. Trump's tough talk on immigration took center stage in front of a packed house in Dallas Monday.
We have to build a wall. And a wall works.
Jeb Bush is working to appeal to Hispanics.
Porque todos somos americanos.
Speaking only in Spanish in this new ad, Bush says Hispanics are an important part of the American dream. He even enlisted the help of his wife, Columba, who only spoke English in the ad. Donald Trump has said he doesn't rehearse, which would explain why he was spending crucial debate prep time on that decommissioned battleship. Kenneth Moten, ABC News, Washington.
Joining us now, David Mark, former editor at Politico and the author of Dog Whistles, Walkbacks, and Washington Handshakes. And Rebecca Cinderbrand is with us. She covers national politics for the Washington Post. Great to have you with us. There's a sense of excitement here that I don't think we normally get for an 11-candidate debate 74 months before the general election. I mean, David, I think, as I said, I think the ratings are going to be high. Interest is high. This could be, I mean, get out the popcorn. This could be entertaining and hopefully illuminating.
Right. In past election cycles, these early fall debates don't usually generate the kind of ratings that are predicted, which there's every reason to believe will occur this time. Obviously, Donald Trump is center stage here, and the real question is how the other candidates are going to go about criticizing him if they decide to go that route at all, and it's not clear it's in their interest to do so. He's going to be literally at the center of the stage, and it's going to be all about him.
I get the sense, Rebecca, that there's been a common conclusion reached by the non-front-running candidates that the timid approach to Donald Trump hasn't worked, and it's time for something new.
Absolutely, and we've heard that from several campaigns. You know, you had a couple of candidates last time around who seemed to fade into the woodwork a bit. You saw others who seemed to come across as a little bit weak in the face of Trump attacks, and so there's been a concerted effort by candidates to prepare to push back a bit. And we happen to know, of course, we've heard from some of the moderators, they're prepared to pit the candidates against each other. They're looking to see them scrap, and so we may see back and forth with Trump and some of the others who he's had plenty to say about before the debate.
The challenge up until now for the chase, I'll call them the chasing candidates, the non-front-running candidates, is when someone has a lead, and Trump clearly, it's in all the polls, I think it's uncontroverted at this point that Trump is ahead of the pack. So he's the person who you're trying to take support from and add it to your own support to put you more into the mix. But I guess the thinking has been if we insult him, if we go after him, if we try to tear him down, then the people we're appealing to won't like us in some way, right?
Well, that's right. There's also a sense that it might just make him stronger, that he can play the victim, which he's known to do against whether it's Megyn Kelly, the last debate moderator, any number of other people who have tried to criticize him. He speaks kind of vaguely about being treated fairly or unfairly. I think for a lot of the candidates, it's really just to have a presence there, because in that first debate, we saw several of the seemingly top candidates just kind of stand there back in the woodwork. Ted Cruz, who, whatever you think of his views, is known as a master public speaker and debater. Scott Walker just stood there silently for minutes on end. And even Rand Paul, who probably stands out ideologically more from the rest of the pack, he kind of forgot he was there. So I think a lot of them have a challenge just to be relevant.
Is there a skill set that Donald Trump has, and I mean this for now, only in the area of rhetoric, of punching and counterpunching and glibness and feistiness. Does he have a skill set that some or maybe most of these others lack?
Well, we actually had a professor analyze the way that Trump insults other candidates for the Washington Post, and he actually came to the conclusion that the way he speaks is fundamentally different from other politicians on a linguistic level. He speaks the way no other politician speaks. You know, to your point, yes, there's a risk in attacking Trump because his supporters are so passionate, but of course, there are equally passionate people who are in opposition to Trump. And so he leads in both of those metrics. And most importantly, the person to come out of the last debate with the most momentum actually wasn't Donald Trump. It was Ben Carson, who was perhaps the most mild-mannered person on that stage.
Phone lines open as we talk with Rebecca Cinderbrand of the Washington Post and former Politico editor David Mark. I'm curious to know, what do you hope to hear from tonight's debate? What would make it a thing of value for you? Will you be watching? Those and other questions we're happy for you to take on. Join the conversation, please. It's 703-387-1020. That's our number. You can join the Q&A today. You can join the discussion as long as you're watching in the 11 a.m. hour. That's when we're able to take your calls. Grab an open line, please, because I would love to get your thoughts on all the issues we're discussing here today with our guests. What is fueling Ben Carson's surge, if we can call it that? He seems to be clearly the number two. Impressive numbers. What's behind it?
Clearly, this election cycle, there is an appetite, I think, across the political spectrum, from somebody who's not a politician. And Ben Carson can plausibly claim to be the least political of any of the candidates. After all, Carly Fiorina did run for Senate in California in 2010. She's been in the political process before. Donald Trump has given tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in political contributions going back decades. So even though he's a business guy, he's still been in the political process. Ben Carson, he's brilliant. As a doctor, you might agree with his political views and policies, you might not, but he's clearly got the skill set that everybody else lacks. Now, there's some opposition research that may come out against him or any other front runner who rises up. But so far, I think he's just a reflection of the Bernie Sanders type momentum. Whatever your political views, people just want something different.
Hugh Hewitt is a former Nixon speechwriter. I think he wrote for helped Eisenhower. He helped on an Eisenhower book. He's a talk radio figure. He's a strong intellectual personality within the conservative world. He's on the panel tonight. He generated headlines recently for some questions he posed to Donald Trump about various foreign leaders and groups, etc. Is Ben Carson potentially the recipient of similar questioning tonight?
Well, absolutely.
And is there risk for him?
There is, although it's interesting to note, Ben Carson had his own kind of stumbling interview with Hugh Hewitt. He's gone a little bit under the radar, and to that point, you've seen a lot of criticism hurled at Donald Trump. He's taken a lot of hits. Ben Carson has managed to avoid attacks for the most part. Just this past week, as we've seen his momentum over the past week or two, we've started to see Donald Trump start to attack Ben Carson just a bit. That's one of the first times we've seen anyone in the field take a shot at him. So the way that he reacts to that and the dynamic as that changes, that'll be interesting to watch, particularly on the stage tonight.
If Ben Carson is a policy wonk, that will come through, and if he's not, that will come through. I mean, people think of these debates as moments, as opportunities to move forward, to help the cause. It cuts both ways.
Well, probably the issue on which he would seemingly have the most credibility would be the Affordable Care Act, the reviled among Republicans Obamacare. The fact that he could speak with some authority about how the insurance provisions work and all kinds of other aspects of that. I don't know how much that's going to get brought out. I think looking back at the first debate, that was barely mentioned, and you don't even hear it much on the campaign trail from most of the candidates at this point. So I'll be looking to see if Ben Carson brings that out voluntarily, if he's whether there's a question on it or not.
He has a laid-back style, and that will contrast quite potentially with the one gear Donald Trump seems to have, which is like 8th gear, and what we think will be a more caffeinated performance by the folks that you referenced earlier, David, the folks looking to not blend into the woodwork and to seem forward-leaning and energetic and ready to take Donald Trump on. I mean, this may run counter to the natural Ben Carson
Absolutely.
You know,
his persona, if you've ever seen him campaign in person, it's just, you know, very sleepy, mild-mannered, laid back. It's an interesting contrast, of course, with Donald Trump. But again, as you know, we noted before, after the last debate, the first hour after the debate, Ben Carson got 4 times as many new Twitter followers as Donald Trump. So clearly, whatever he was doing on stage was resonating.
It's been a very impressive few weeks for him, to be sure. Rebecca and David, stand by for just a moment. We pause here. A quick news and weather update that's coming straight ahead. And then back to our conversation, your calls included. Keep it here.